Right guys, quick one on AMS2 and the GTEs, and we're going to do an LMDH, and we're going to then jump into LMU after being an AMS2 here, and well, basically compare them, see how they both drive, mainly on the physics side of things. That's really what I'm interested in. We'll take the Corvette and both. I know it's not a direct one-to-one comparison, but you know, we're at Spa. The reason I picked this track is because well, it's got like fast corners, slow corners, braking zones, acceleration points, all the rest of it. So an ideal track, I think, to test both kind of sims head to head. So already just out of pits we can hear scraping, which is pretty cool. That's something it does happen in LMU, but the scraping sound there is a bit better. It gives you that kind of assurance that you've done it. One thing I didn't like with AMS2 was coming in before doing this video, I tried to set up the triple screens, and to say it's been a bit of a pain is an understatement. They're still not right. I've measured everything, I've done everything correctly. I'm also using Nvidia surround. I'll spend a bit more time. It's probably a me problem than it is a game problem, but it's certainly more difficult than it needs to be, I think. But anyhow, let's crack on. Okay, we've no damage on the car, so we'll continue on. So, in fairness, there's no real concept of cold tyres out of pits in AMS2. Like, they're pretty grippy straight away with the temperatures and stuff kind of coming up much quicker than they do in LMU. So, the outlap probably can't compare how it is on cold tyres. Yeah, it just seems the braking trace is a little bit off, and I think that's maybe down to my settings actually. Yeah, maybe just have to stand on the brake a bit more. I did adjust my Heusinkveld sprint the other day, so yeah, okay, I just need to get more brake into it, that's all. So, how does it feel? I suppose AMS2, I mean, it's more alive than an ACC in the force feedback department. But it's difficult to feel on the brakes, like when or if enough is enough on the brake. So yeah, let's just do a lap and let's just see kind of how this feels, how it comes together. Yeah, okay. It's I mean, I can feel the weight in the car on the front, but certainly not as much detail as I'm used to in LMU over the last week, I have to admit. But still more... it's still a bit more natural than ACC. ACC, by comparison to this, would be a bit more mechanical. This is a lot more realistic, I think, in terms of, like, it feels like a tyre. Yeah, I mean, it still feels really good. Like, I mean, there's no mistake in that. You know what the car's doing. It's still there. Like, it still communicates what's going on with the car. Yeah, I can feel the front of the car, and it also feels that once I know the front is kind of in line, that the corner's pretty much okay. Yeah, there's plenty of grip. Like, I can be a bit abusive with the car in places. I feel the weight shift of the car really nicely. Like, I mean, it loads up the steering when you'd expect. Yeah, I will say, and I've done that purposely just there, the braking feel just doesn't appear to be there. It's kind of like you're braking and the car's slowing down, but there's no real feel to it, like, if that makes sense. It's hard to describe. It's just... Let's do another lap. Change the bias a little bit rearward. Yeah, I mean, it's dull. Like, it's informative, but it's dull. This feels too easy, Eau Rouge, like, you know, considering I can flat out in 5th gear and, you know, I'm not really worried about the line I'm taking. It's nice and forgiving, plenty of grip. Is it realistic? Don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, I like that going over the the gravel that I've kicked onto the road. Like, I could feel that as I went over it. That's one thing AMS do really well, is that live track thing with dust and marbles and all sorts of stuff. It's really well done. Yeah, it's fun, and I think that the feedback, like how the car behaves, is, you know, what you'd expect. The feedback feels nice, as I thought it would. It's like, I am getting nice bits of information through the wheel. It doesn't seem as lively as what I remember in LMU. LMU has, I think, a bit more dynamic to it, but yeah, there's still... It's still very much underrated, I think, this sim, like, in terms of what it does right. It does a lot right. And the lockup. Yeah, the lockup is not too eventful, but, you know, still what you'd expect, I think, nonetheless. Yeah, okay. So, right. What do I think of it? Initially, it feels very, very... a lot more dull than what I remember in LMU. And it's not just a track surface. Look, I know this is smooth in AMS2, but it's also like hitting the curbs, the actual, just the overall interaction. But to be fair, like, as a car, as the physics go, as the dynamics of the car go, it's pretty much what you'd expect, really. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing surprising. And that in itself is complimentary, because the car is doing what the car should do, yeah? So, nothing too crazy going on. Let's go and get the Corvette in LMU. Let's take it to Spa, do the same test, and then after that's done, we'll go and get the LMDHs and put them back to back. We might take the Porsche, maybe. But yeah, let's jump to LMU then. Alright guys, here we are then in LMU in the Corvette as well. So I'll just change my profile for the game here on the stream deck. Let's get a decent seating position. Yeah, it seems okay, I think. Pit limiter on. Right, let's go. So, same track, same-ish car. Corvette CR8 GTE. And yeah, I think in both games, I mean, it looks great, doesn't it? You have the leader lights, obviously, in LMU, as we do in AMS2 as well. But yeah, great model in both games. Now we've no tyre warmers in LMU, so let's see. FFB is a little bit light, I think, as the tyres will come up to temperature. Yeah, it's way more sketchy up Eau Rouge now. I know I'm only out of pit, so let's get the tyres up to temp. Let's help them. Actually, one thing I'm going to do, I just realised. So in, let me just take some fuel out of the car, because in AMS2 I ran with about 20 something litres of fuel, so let me just take similar fuel. We'll go with, I think it was 22, 23 litres, something like that. We'll go with that, 22 litres.
Locking disabled.
Just so it's like for like, or as close as possible. I know they're different sims. The car is the same, the track is the same, so, you know, just try and we'll keep things, or we'll try to keep things as like for like as we can. Yeah, an AMS2 it felt really nice to drive. Maybe not as dynamic as I would have thought it might be, but I have been playing LMU for a couple of weeks since it's been released, to be honest, and that has been quite an eye-opener. But yeah, nonetheless, let's you know, I'm not writing AMS2 off by any means, like, but it is interesting to kind of see the differences. Like this is certainly more twitchy, but we are on cold tires. I will say though, out of every sim that I've played, and I include you know, all of them, when it comes to cold tires, I will say LMU does seem to be the most punishing and finicky when it comes to, you know, cold tire temps. Yeah, it's very sketchy with the tires, like just not up to temp, which is fine. I can actually feel the car kind of sliding completely, you know, all four wheels just kind of at the edge of adhesion, and you can feel it, like the car loads up on the wheel, so you can feel the weight in the steering as it loads up, and then just as it enters the corner and goes into its own little kind of semi-slidey, grippy thing, the steering just gets that little bit lighter, and you get that feedback. Like it's pretty cool. Going to ratchet the FFB up just maybe, oh, we'll leave it at the moment. The tires are still cold, so I'll wait till they get up to the temperature before touching the FFB strength. It's thereabouts. But already, like, I have to say, like, I can feel way more. And the braking, okay, the braking is a bit different. It seems to be, the brakes will appear at least to slow the car down quicker in this than they do in AMS2. It'll, you know, and that's neither here nor there. I mean, they're different tire compounds probably and simulated in the games and whatever else, but just an observation, I guess. I'll try and take Eau Rouge flat. Yeah. Like certainly not as comfortable through there as I was in AMS2. Like I could feel through the feedback that the car was just about to let go at any point, as I think it might be in real life. I'm braking a lot earlier, just being used to AMS2. The braking areas are a lot earlier in that game, I think. Certainly that's how it felt. Yeah, I mean, look, there's no way to sugarcoat it, and if I do try to sugarcoat it, like, I'll be called bullshit straight away, right? Because you can see exactly through the steering wheel what I'm experiencing in this compared to AMS2. This is a world apart, and I'm not shitting on AMS2 by any means. Like, I really think it's a great sim, but LMU, like, man, it's on a different level. Like, it just is. And I'm an ACC kind of league player slash fanboy or whatever, you know, in some respect. And I would say the same thing. Like, this shits all over ACC from a physics perspective and a feedback perspective. Like, it's a level above anything I've driven, and I've driven them all. This is just yeah, this is just on a different level. It's totally, like, it's not even close. And I hated R Factor 2, by the way, right? Hated it. Still not a fan of it. And I've tried it. I've tried it again. I've tried. Yeah, ignore, that's a shit lap. But I've tried R Factor 2 again since LMU came along, thinking that, oh well, because I'm like an LMU, maybe I'll like R Factor 2, because, you know, everyone is saying it's the same sim, just re-skinned, and not. It's not the same sim. There's similarities. The physics base, you can see the similarities, but how it actually delivers it, how it drives, I have to say, like, for me at least, the difference is noticeable. Make of that what you will, but, and again, like, I'll call shit. Oh, that's cool, isn't it? The front of the car scraping and everything. Nice. But yeah, I mean, I would call shit on LMU. Like, it has loads of bugs still, but it's early access, right? So you have to be fair. But objectively speaking, comparing that to the AMS2 version, like this, it's more difficult, but it's more fun. And I say that because maybe I'm a more experienced sim racer, so I like the more touchy cars. But AMS2 is equally good. Well, no, it's not equally good. It's good. It's not equal to this, in my humble opinion. It's still a brilliant sim, but as I say, this just has a dynamic that no other sim I've ever played has, or has gotten close to. Yeah. Anyway, let's park this back in the virtual garage. Right, we'll go back to AMS2. We'll take the LMDH. Let's say the Porsche maybe, or the Caddy. We go to Porsche, and yeah, we'll do the same thing again. So yeah, let's jump back to AMS2. Right guys, back in AMS2, and I thought to do this properly, given that we're going to be going into the hypercars, it has to be Le Mans, doesn't it? Yeah, alright, let's do this. So I've fueled the car with 40 litres. I'll do the same for the LMU version as well. Stock setup, other than that, I'm not changing a thing. And yeah, let's just go out on track. And actually, one thing I just want to check, because I know in LMU that the tyres make a bit of a difference. So let me just make sure these are on the soft slick, just to, yeah, soft slick. Right, we'll do the same in LMU. Alrighty, let's go. Alrighty. Limiter on. I love that. That is so cool, man. That is so cool. Car model looks brilliant. Yeah, awesome. Oh, that's like thunder. Like absolute thunder. Okay, I'm gonna totally miss that chicane. Actually, I want to do one thing. I'm going to do this quickly on the fly, because I know, I said in the earlier video that I had messed around with my brake configuration. So what I want to do is just adjust the brake sensitivity. Brake sensitivity, I'll increase that to maybe, I feel like 30 is where it needs to be. And yeah, we'll just continue on with this. Maybe a little bit more, actually. Yeah, it's just important to get this right, because if I don't, especially with a track like Le Mans and a car like this, it's not going to give a fair comparison. Yeah, that seems a bit better, I think. Yeah, that seems a bit better. Oh yeah, this is a bit more alive compared to the Corvette. Yeah, immediately, like, I can feel way more forces through the wheel with the downforce on the car. That's very clear. It's a bit more bumpy, it's a bit more alive. The bumps are still a bit subdued compared to how it is in LMU, but, you know, whatever, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not good or bad, it's just a thing. Yeah, now it feels as the downforce comes off the car, the FFB probably should go a little bit lighter than it actually does, but again, not a major thing. Sound. Amazing. Absolutely stunning sound off that, man. Okay, I'm braking at 200 meters there, which was a little early. I wonder what it'd be like in LMU. The curbs are a little bit dull, I think. Now I do know that, you know, real life drivers of Le Mans do say that the curbs here are quite tough and shake it around a little bit, so I wonder if that's been modelled correctly or not. Yeah, that one is a bit tougher, and that one there is a little bit harsh. Yeah, the sound is great. The onboard is a little bit... don't know, outside is brilliant though. Yeah, it does feel very planted. Oh, gone a bit deep there, but whatever. Yeah, the wheel is nice and weighted and it's reactive. I can feel the bumps. The bumps are not as they're not as pronounced as what I recall LMU being, but they're there. They're there. And instead we've got kind of a very heavy sort of feeling in the wheel. Like I can feel a lot of downforce here. Bit of slide at the back, which I felt coming early. Corrected that as it happened, which is all good. And yeah, I can feel a nice bit of slip angle through the car as well. I'm getting the information just as you'd want, and a really nice feeling heavy weight to the steering. Yeah, this is good. And the Ford chicanes, everyone's nemesis. Yeah, I'm hitting those curbs on purpose there to bounce the car, just so I can feel what the curb's actually doing. Again, not focused on lap times here, it's just really how the car actually feels, and, you know, what does the feedback tell me, what does the physics tell me. Went a bit deep there, and the car's thrown in too fast, and then we're trying to collect it in the middle of the corner, and collect it we did, like, and the reason being is that I got the information required. And the same again, so I'm getting all of the information, like you can see I'm reacting to what the car's doing. Tetra Rouge. Probably my favourite corner. There's nothing better than getting that nailed correctly in any race. But yeah, this feels good. Let's have a look at top speed. So we're probably going to hit about, what, 325-ish? Onto the brakes at 200. Yeah, it feels good. It feels more alive than the Corvette. Now I know that's stating the obvious, right? But it feels better than the Corvette, all else being equal, you know. Yeah, I love the dash layout in the car, like it's nice. Yeah, and the braking now is a bit better. I think maybe making that brake adjustment on the pedal was, on the sensitivity settings, was a good thing. I have upped my Heusinkveld to 55 kilograms. I used to run it at like 43 mainly because of ACC. Like, you want to get into the ABS and ensure that you're at max brake most of the time. But in cars without ABS like this one and stuff, you obviously need to, you know, a harder pedal can help because you can modulate with more pressure. Yeah, this is really, really good. Really good. Yeah, it'd be interesting driving this back to back in LMU. Little threat of stepping out at the rear, which again you'd expect, but plenty of downforce on the car to keep us honest. Oh, it's gone a little bit deep there. Looks good, feels good. FFB is really informative. And then if you go in too hot, yeah, you're constantly keeping the rear just about on the edge of grip. I love that feel in AMS2. It's one thing they do nice. Yeah, you can wrestle and hustle the car a little bit, and obviously just gone a bit too much there, Gary. Step back. But yeah, this feels nice. Really good. A little bit too hot. Yeah, those curves are violent, but it is Le Mans. Yeah, not a great lap. Mid 330s and ooh, the FFB. Yeah, that can happen. That's not wrong with the FFB, by the way. It's just the way FFB signals get interpreted by games and stuff. But yeah. Anyway, what a noise. Yeah, so it's a lot better than the Corvette. And I'm not talking about the car, the actual FFB and the dynamics, the feel. A much more dynamic drive, a much more engaging and fun experience. More information coming back through the wheel. Yeah. That noise. Unbelievable. You could definitely notice the downforce on that car. Yeah. Definitely an improvement over the Corvette. But the Corvette, though, being a GTE, like you would expect, I guess, kind of it to be a bit more refined. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Great car, brilliant car. And even in the slow corners, the braking I could feel a lot more. So as I was coming down to brake, I could feel as I came off, the grip on the front was cooperating with the turning. The turning itself, I could feel the lack of downforce at the slower speeds, and you know, you'd feel the front threatening to wash out. But I will say though, the front did feel generally strong. But yeah, what a car. Really, really fun experience. Oh, look at that. Throwing it around just on the edge of that slip angle. There was nothing more there, guys. Another centimetre and that was gone. Yeah, pretty cool. And those curbs are violent in this game, the way they probably should be, to be fair. Yeah, okay, let's leave it there. Let's go to LMU, take the Porsche, take it to Le Mans, and see how it compares. Alright guys, here we are in LMU. Let me just go back into my profile here. We'll change the view of the car. Yeah, about there, I think. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, alright, let's go. Oh yeah, one thing. The engine's on, but there's no noise. That's because in Le Mans Ultimate, for the relevant cars, they have modelled the hybrid systems on all of the cars. So when we give it a bit of throttle, it will fire up. Listen to this. It literally will kick in when necessary. Okay, so the sound check is pretty good. The model, just like the one in AMS2, this is pretty nice as well. I mean, looks awesome, doesn't it? the Porsche does though. The 963 is one of my favourite looking hypercars out there, but anyway, we're here to drive it, not admire it. We'll do that later on the replay. Tyres are a bit cold, so I'm just going to be a little bit careful not to overdrive the thing at the start, because I do know cold tyres in this game are very, very punishing. Yeah. Visually, I think both games do a brilliant job. I mean, if I was being super picky, I think LMU maybe has a more natural colour palette, but both of them, I think, like visually, AMS2 has always been known to be absolutely brilliant in the graphics department. LMU is also very, very good in the graphics department, so scraping in the centre of the road. Yeah, the curbs feel a little bit more sharp and a bit more aggressive in LMU. FFB feels like it has more range in Le Mans Ultimate. Just seems like there's more going on. It's ready to tell you a bit more. That's what it feels like. Yeah, okay. We'll know really when we get into the final sector through the Porsche curves and stuff. But yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, like both of these sims do a really nice job of this car at Le Mans, in different ways though. Like, they feel a bit different in how they deliver the experience, but they're both very good, I have to say. AMS2 feels a little safer, but still quite engaging. We'll have a better idea like once this gets up to temperature properly on the next lap maybe. Yeah, the curb is definitely a lot more aggressive. And I do have to bleed off a bit more speed compared to AMS2 in the corners, but I think that's more setup related, to be perfectly honest. And I have driven these back to back, guys. I haven't done practice in between runs because I just want to do it raw. I don't want to do 5 laps practice in one sim and then be biased towards that, because that wouldn't be the correct thing to do either. Like, I'm literally, if I've been here, which I probably could, it's probably because I've jumped straight from AMS2 into LMU and trying to drive it in a similar way. Like, so genuinely no practice between runs. Probably notice I'm stepping on it a bit more in LMU, and why that is because I have a better feel for the limit just from the force feedback. I just know where the limit is, and I can feel the car moving around a lot more in the corner. Not that it's threatening to let go, I just can feel it moving around, and I know what it's doing a lot clearer in this sim compared to AMS. It's more dynamic, like, for sure. This is that, you know. But I will say it's definitely more advanced. Like, not more advanced. Well, it is more advanced, but it's more difficult. That's what I'm trying to say, right? When I started driving this like a couple of weeks ago when it released, having come from ACC and AMS2, I struggled to get like an LMP or GTE around the track. The hypercars was a write-off. Like, I mean, I spent more time hitting the escape button, taking out barriers, than I did actually completing laps in the hypercar. No assist, of course, like just, you know, as intended. You know, no ABS, nothing like that. Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're a more casual racer, AMS2 will be more accessible for sure. It's still a fun experience, it's still dynamic, you know, nothing bad to say about it. If you're more serious into your sim racing, LMU definitely poses a more challenging drive, I think. It's you know, and that's not to say because it's more challenging it's better, right? It's whatever you prefer. Both of them simulate the physics really well. One is more edgy because it's arguably a bit more advanced, I suppose, like R factor, and the whole engine has been around for a long time now. Okay.
Lap 328.67.
328, so by probably most people's standards that's crap, but again, I think with a bit of practice, like I might be down into the, you know, maybe take a few seconds, maybe 3 seconds, 4 seconds off that, but yeah, whatever. The difference is I think clear to see, isn't it? Like, I mean, even in the force feedback, and you know, again, considering like I haven't practiced between runs, and even though I've been driving LMU quite a bit over the last week, I don't drive the hypercars really. It's mainly the GTEs, maybe a bit of LMP. So I'm not too familiar with the hypercars in this game, or AMS2, to be perfectly honest about it. So I know I'm not extracting maximum pace out of this. I know I'm not extracting maximum pace out of the AMS2 version. What did stand out to me was the ability for me to start to push on in this a bit more. In AMS2, there was a lot of weight in the steering from the, you know, the downforce, I think, and it felt nice. I could feel the road within that, and it was good. It was very good. With this though, I could feel that, but with more stuff being thrown in, like little, almost like micro slides. Difficult to explain, but you could feel it. The overall FFB was lighter. Generally speaking, it was a lot lighter, but heavier in the high downforce, lighter in the slow speed, like a lot lighter in the slow speed, such as this. But what wasn't lacking, even though it went lighter, you still had loads of detail coming through, like little undulations, little corrections. You could feel the rear, you know, visually starting to come around a little bit on throttle, and the steering immediately would go a bit light to represent that. And you know, even through here, like you know, this was a lot more understeery compared to AMS2. And again, you could feel that with the steering angle and not really getting the back of the car out too much. All of that you could feel. This was more dynamic. The difference though between this one and the AMS2 version wasn't as big as the difference between the GTEs that we'd driven at the start. The difference here was, I mean, it was still a bit of a difference, right, to be fair, but it wasn't as much. The GTEs were like different classes of car. Huge difference. But yeah, LMU. Look, LMU is you know, LMU is ahead of, like I say, most sims I've played so far to date. There is a learning curve to it for sure. It's not pick up and play, and believe me, like I've like 1800 hours, nearly 1900 hours in ACC. I've a couple of hundred in AMS2, bore factor, you know, the usual suspects. Even a little bit of iRacing in the past, but from a driving dynamics perspective, physics, feedback, all of that, LMU I think is the best we've, certainly the best I've had so far. I mean, just how it's done is pretty good. The settings though do take a bit of dialing in. I think once you do that though, it's all good. Just while we're on the topic of settings, actually, just, you know, I'm gonna wrap up here because there's not much more to say. But on the settings, right? Let me just show you my FFB settings, because this will help people get ahead of things, right? So I'm on a Fanatec DD2. This will apply for Fanatec wheels. If you're on a CSL DD, use the same settings, but increase the gain in the driver and in-game just to get the overall FFB where you want it. So what I've done, torque capability 25, FFB strength from the game at 60%. The reason I've gone with 60% is I've ran traces in Motec looking at the steering rack torque and the FFB torque being output and comparing that with what's coming out on the wheelbase, and 60% seems to be the closest like for like. Much above that, well, not much, but if you go above that, like 80-90% game output. When I done an R Factor 2 introduced clipping, I assume it would do similar here. But look, if you're on a lower powered wheelbase, increase the driver and increase that number if you need to. It's okay, it's totally okay. It's only spikes I'm talking about with clips. Anyway, smoothing I have on 1. I think if you have that on 0 from the game, it can be a bit grainy. And I think the FFB and LMU is a bit sharp anyway. So have that on 1, I think is pretty okay to do. Bump stop degrees, set that between 30-40. Essentially, it's the when you get to full lock on the car you're driving, how many degrees that will stop or start to slow down and resist and introduce that bump beforehand. So 40 degrees, it's only like a tiny amount. So 30 to 40 degrees, totally okay. Minimum steering torque at 0 for direct drives. You can up that a little bit for the likes of Thrustmaster and whatever else. The resistance coefficients, essentially this is damping and the saturation of that damping, right? I bring that down to 4. 10 is by default, but 4 I think is good for me. But again, try it, see what you think. When it comes down to collision strength and curb pull strength, 28 and 28 is where I've settled. I was thinking about going lower on the pull strength because I've done some laps at Bahrain in the LMP, and I thought it's a bit too pulley over the curb. So try 28, but don't be afraid to lower that 28 even further. Some people run it at 0. Again, experiment, get your comfort level, but though, you know, low is where you should go with this. The update threshold and the sensitivity I haven't touched. They should be 0.1 and 100%. And everything else then, let me show you my Fanalab just while we are on the topic. Spare me 1 second, guys. Just need to switch on the top screen to show this. Your top screen show. Okay, so there's my top screen, and yeah, you all should be able to see that. Okay, so in Fanalab, these are my settings for pretty much all sims, right? The overall FFB strength, set that to whatever you want, right? That's down to personal preference. I will caution, running LMU in its current state at high FFB settings on your wheel is dangerous, because there has been a few crashes of the game where I've had to hit the emergency stop button. Other people on the forums, Discord, have said the same thing has happened to them. Again, it's just advisory. If you have a quick, emergency stop button on your wheelbase, fine. But again, just be careful. And to be honest with you, I never feel the need to run a direct drive wheelbase at 100% anyway. Look, you can if you want, but it's like an audio signal. You know, you want decent gain and decent output. If you lower one and increase the other, you know, could get a bit noisy, but whatever. Set it to wherever you want it. Force feedback scaling I have at peak, natural damper off, natural friction off, inertia off. The reason being, most feedback should come from the game. If you want to introduce a bit of friction, fine. The interpolation I have at 1 because, again, I think if that's at 0, the FFB signal can be a little bit noisy, in my opinion. But again, for some people they will like it that way. Other people maybe not. But yeah, they're my settings. Anyway, so yeah, guys, we'll leave it there. Hopefully, just actually one more thing. They're the same settings, by the way, that I run in AMS2 ACC as far as the Fanatec settings go, right? So they don't change. Interpolation's always at 1, dampers and all of that stuff is always off, and then it's just FFB to. I shoot for an average of about 8 to 9 Newton meters of output on the wheelbase, and I will let it peak at about 12 or 13. Like a hard curb strike or stuff like that. Yeah, leave it there, guys. Yeah, AMS2 LMU. It's like for me, like it's like, which is your favorite child? And we're not supposed to have a favorite, are we? But if I'm honest, I think in this case there is a favorite. Well, it's a favorite in different ways. AMS2 has the better choice of cars, as we know, like more tracks, more car choice, different types of class, all of that. But LMU has launched in early access, and from what we've seen so far, the tracks are done brilliantly, the car models are done superbly as well. The online competition system, is there, it's running, and ahead of time the guys at Studio 397 had all of the feedback loops ready to go. So they had like a Discord forum, they had the community forum for the feedback, the bug reports, all of that was up and running as the game released. So I think they, forgetting about physics and all of that for a second, I think that potentially now they've won that multi-class kind of segment of the market, which I think Reza probably were banking on with the Le Mans push and then the release of the hypercars and stuff. But yeah, I think it's a bit of an uphill battle now for AMS2 to reclaim that section of the sim racing market. But listen, when it comes to historic race cars, old Formula cars, just choice in general, AMS2 stands head and shoulders above the rest, but for this video we're looking at multi-class endurance, and based on that alone, things are looking more promising, I think, for Le Mans Ultimate. But yeah, we leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments if you've driven these two, and try to be objective, because I know in sim racing that we all have our favorites, and sometimes it can be difficult for people to be objective and actually drive both of them and forget about what you like, but what you feel and what you see. That's what's important when it comes to a simulation. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear what people think on this one. It's a touchy subject for me because I like AMS2. I've always said it until recent, until this came out, that it had the best FFB, and for sure, it had better FFB than ACC, and I was a ACC player. Like, it's my main driven sim by far. But again, if I can't be objective, then why create videos on YouTube? And because if I can't be honest, then what's the point? But yeah, let me know what you think, guys. I'll stop waffling on. Thanks for watching. If you want similar videos like this, let me know, give me ideas. Be more than happy to stick them together when I get a chance. And yeah, thanks again, guys, for watching. Appreciate it as always. I hope to see you on track in a clean lobby somewhere, whether it's here or in AMS2. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
away.